In the land of eternal sun and endless desert, the Egyptians of the Third Dynasty began their most ambitious quest, to conquer death itself. Unlike the bloody struggles of earlier rulers, this was an age of relative peace. Pharaoh Djoser, one of the earliest kings of this dynasty, expanded Egypt's borders as far south as the first cataract of the Nile. He organized the young state into provinces, each ruled by governors loyal to the royal family. According to legend, he even ended a devastating 7-year famine by dedicating newly conquered land to the god Khnum, protector of the Nile's waters. Yet, beyond politics and borders, Djoser's greatest ambition was far more mysterious. He sought not just to rule Egypt but to defy mortality. For the Egyptians, the pharaoh was more than a man. He was the guarantor of cosmic order, the bridge between gods and mortals, the one whose strength kept the Nile flowing and the sun rising. But what happened when such a man died? Djoser refused to leave the answer to chance. He began planning something no one had ever seen before, a city for the dead, where the king would live on forever. Every Egyptian king was expected to prove his divine strength through an ancient ritual known as the Heb-Sed festival. The ceremony demanded that the pharaoh, even in old age, run a ceremonial race around a sacred course. Reliefs carved in stone show Djoser himself running this ritual. It was more than mere sport. If the pharaoh faltered, if his strength seemed to fade, the stability of the entire kingdom was thought to be at risk. Egypt's survival, in the minds of its people, was tied to the vitality of its ruler. But rituals alone were not enough. When Djoser finally died, he did not choose Abydos, the traditional burial ground of Egypt's earliest rulers. Instead, he commissioned something entirely new at Saqqara, a tomb unlike any ever seen before. Designed by his brilliant vizier and architect Imhotep, this monument would become the Step Pyramid, the first pyramid in history. Rising 6 tiers high, it reached over 60 meters into the desert sky. Beneath it stretched an underground labyrinth of chambers and passages, intended to house not only Djoser's remains, but also the eternal presence of his spirit. Imhotep's genius went far beyond simple stonework. Around the pyramid he constructed an entire ceremonial city. Stone walls carved to look like reed mats, columns shaped like bundles of papyrus stalks, wooden gates recreated perfectly in stone. Even the racecourse for the Heb-Sed festival was included. Inside a hidden chamber called the Serdab stood a life-size statue of the king. It gazed east toward the rising sun, through 2 tiny holes drilled in the wall. Priests could leave offerings at an altar outside, allowing the spirit of the dead pharaoh to feast upon the aromas of food and drink. In this way, Djoser never truly left his people. His body was buried, but his presence remained. For the Egyptians, this was nothing less than a revolution. Death was no longer the end. Through stone, ritual and faith, a pharaoh could conquer time itself. Imhotep's creation may have been inspired by older traditions. In Abydos, earlier kings had been buried beneath mastabas, rectangular tombs with flat roofs. The Step Pyramid could be seen as a giant mastaba stacked 6 times over. But there was another possible inspiration. Far to the east in Mesopotamia, the Sumerians built massive temple towers known as ziggurats. After Djoser's death, his successors tried to replicate his triumph. Pharaoh Sekhemkhet planned a pyramid with 7 steps, taller than Djoser's. Another ruler, Kaba, attempted his own monument, the Layer Pyramid. It too was never completed. The last king of the dynasty, Huni, began the Meidum Pyramid, which was finished only after his death by his successor Snefru. Yet even this pyramid collapsed in disaster, leaving behind a jagged ruin that still scars the desert today. It was a time of trial and error. The Egyptians had mastered the idea of building for eternity, but the techniques were still evolving. When Snefru, founder of the 4th dynasty, came to the throne, he was determined to perfect the art of pyramid building. First, he completed the Meidum Pyramid, giving it new features: a burial chamber inside the pyramid itself, and a ceremonial causeway leading to a mortuary temple. But the structure soon collapsed, perhaps due to flawed engineering. Undaunted, Snefru began a second pyramid at Dashur. This one was designed with smooth, sloping sides, the first attempt to create the iconic pyramid shape we know today. But halfway through construction, the angle proved too steep. To save the building from collapse, the builders abruptly changed the slope, producing the famous Bent Pyramid, a monument with hunch-shouldered sides. Still dissatisfied, Snefru ordered a 3rd pyramid. This time the builders got it right. The Red Pyramid, with its broad base and 43-degree slope, was the first successful true pyramid in history. Its walls have stood for more than 4,000 years without a single major crack. Snefru's three pyramids together marked the turning point in Egyptian architecture. The dream of immortality was now not only symbolic, but solid stone. Snefru's son, Khufu, better known by the Greek name Cheops, took the dream to its ultimate extreme. Around 2580 BC, he began building the Great Pyramid of Giza, the largest stone monument ever constructed. Originally standing 146 meters high, with a base of over 230 meters on each side, the pyramid contained more than 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. The precision of its construction still astounds engineers today. The sides are aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions. The base is nearly level to within just a few centimeters. Legends about Khufu paint him as a cruel and ambitious ruler. Ancient writers like Herodotus claimed he forced all Egyptians into labor. Whether these tales are true or slander, they reflect the awe and resentment inspired by a king who demanded such immense sacrifices. Yet the pyramid itself stands as proof of Khufu's power. It was not merely a grave, it was a declaration in stone that the pharaoh was eternal, untouchable, and divine. The Great Pyramid has inspired more speculation than almost any other structure in history. Some claim its layout mirrors the constellation Orion. Others insist it lies at the exact geographical center of the Earth. Still others imagine advanced technology, lost civilizations like Atlantis, or even extraterrestrial builders. The truth, though less sensational, is equally remarkable. The Great Pyramid was the result of centuries of experimentation, organization, and labor. Workers hauled blocks on massive ramps, dragged by ropes, and perhaps aided by ingenious tools like dolomite rollers. It was not aliens, but human persistence and human ambition that raised the pyramid into the sky. The Old Kingdom pyramids are the earliest surviving examples of monumental architecture. Buildings created not for practical use, but to display power. The pyramids were useless as fortresses, palaces, or homes. Their very uselessness was their meaning. They proclaimed that the pharaoh commanded such wealth and authority that he could marshal thousands of workers for decades to build something meant only to glorify him in death. In the end, what began with Djoser and Imhotep had become the defining symbol of Egypt itself. Through pyramids, the Egyptians redefined death, not as an end, but as transformation. The Step Pyramid, the Red Pyramid, and the Great Pyramid of Giza all bear silent witness to this audacious vision. They are not just tombs, they are the world's first victory over death. And even today, more than 4,000 years later, they remind us of humanity's oldest dream, to build something that lasts forever.